Hi there and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Today I'm looking at this. There you go. What is it? It's a mini quad, of course. Quiet in the back seats. No, it's a mini quad. It is the Mini Mamba mini quad and it is from Quadrasteria. They sent this unit to me, I built it up and I'm reviewing it for you so you know whether it's any good. And right off the bat I have to say I quite like it. Mind you, I like all the mini quads. I haven't found a mini quad I don't like yet. This is a lot of fun to fly. I haven't FPV'd it yet, I'm going to get onto that in a moment. But flying line of sight, this is a ball. It's great, it's wonderful like most of them. It's got Sunny Sky 2204 motors, is it? I can't remember off the top of my head. The standard Sunny Skies, yeah, 2204s, 2300 kV, running 6x4 props, which gives it a lot of poke. It does make some funny noises when you throttle it, when you give it full power though. But it's not loose magnets or anything. I think it's just a characteristic of the motors, the props, and the frame. But hey, it flies really well. As I say, line of sight. Had a ball with it. It's a little unconventional, and I like that too. You know, if you look at most of the modern mini quads, they're built pretty much the same. You have flat plate arms, body plates, and standoffs, and it all bolts together, and there's your mini quad. This is a little bit different because it's got carbon tubes for the arms. See that? Carbon tubes. And that opens up a world of possibilities because no longer do you have to keep your motors dead parallel to the body at 0 degrees to the body. You can actually put a tilt on these motors. And that's important because if you want to race a mini quad, the big thing that kills your speed is as you angle the mini quad forward to get more thrust in a horizontal direction, look what happens. What you're seeing here is the drag profile of the mini quad. Here it's very low, but you're not going to go fast because there's nothing pushing you forward. Here, as you get the push going on, there's more and more drag builds up until it's just a big brick wall slowing you down. So how can you avoid that? Simple. The thing that drives you forward is the angle of the props. So if you tilt your props, so you've got a bit of an angle already, then you can get a lot more prop angle for a given amount of body angle when you're moving forward. It should be a lot faster. Okay, all else being equal, this should be faster than when you've tilted the props than a quadcopter that has flat props. I haven't tried that yet, so I can't comment. I will be doing that in the next video on the Mini Mamba because I think the big strength of this mini quad, and it's hard to find distinguishing features for mini quads these days because they all fly so well and they're all, as I say, made out of the same mold basically, slightly different dimensions, slightly different thicknesses of material and whatever. But this is a great machine if you want to innovate, if you want to try stuff out, if you want to, sort of try new things. It's a great starting point. It's a DIY's mini quad because there is so much you can do with it, even out of the box. Play with the motor angles. You could put a bigger carbon rod in here and extend the arms out. Do all sorts of clever things. So I'm looking forward to experimenting a lot with this mini quad because it gives you so much room to do that. But what do I think of it so far? Well, the build was fairly straightforward. It's a bit more involved than something like the Blackout or certainly more than the MXP 230, which is the easiest build in the world. This takes a bit more work. It's got 20 bolt nut pairs to bolt things together because it has these clamps, these little clamps on the arms, which each one has to be bolted up, and then there's the bolts to hold the motor. So there's quite a few parts to this, and it does take a bit of work. Fortunately, the manual is available online as a YouTube video, so I've downloaded that to my media player, and I just watch the video here on the bench and put things together. It makes it real simple. I did that with the Cine tank as well, which is also a very simple build. I wish all manufacturers would start putting YouTube videos up so we can just dump them onto our media players and stick them alongside the bench and just follow step by step. It makes it so much easier. So, yep, this one came, the frame, the motors, the ESCs, which are branded Quadrasteria as well, the NAIS 32 board, which is a NAIS 32 Acros, just the base unit. Yeah, and the props. He sent me the props as well. And these, as I say, 6x4, I think, 6x4 props. I did try this with 5.3 GM fans. Just forget it. It's just a waste of time. It just didn't fly that well at all. It really does benefit from the bigger props, which give it a lot more poke, a lot more punch, and it just flies so much better with the 6x4 props. So yeah, that's certainly important. You'll notice that there's a lot of space on here. So the top of it is a lot of space because of the way the construction works. Let's put it on the bench. Take a bit closer look at how this thing's been put together. Right, the first thing that you probably noticed is the motors are bolted to these flat plates on the end of the arms, and then they are in turn connected to the tubes by these sort of split clamps here. It's a very simple, very straightforward way of doing things. I have to say that when I got this thing initially, I also received an email from Ron of Quadrasteria saying that the clamps were actually slightly oversized. So I had to put heat shrink on the arms. You notice my carbon arms have got heat shrink just to make them a bit bigger so that the clamps would grip properly. And I've put them through their paces and they're not budging. I tell you, you can see some of the video coming up of what I've done with this thing, flying line of sight, and how I've smacked it into various things. And the arms have stayed rock solid, so I'm quite happy with that. That works really well. Notice battery underneath, so that you can really put any size battery you like without having to worry about running into a video transmitter aerial or a Mobius platform or whatever. You've got plenty of scope by putting the battery underneath. You'll notice on this one there's no legs. Okay, there's no landing gear. That actually sits on the battery. A lot of people fly mini quads like that, and but it did come with legs. Here are the legs here. Ta-da! And the legs were supposed to go over this rod, but of course I put heat shrink so the hole was too small. And also I would be a little concerned because once the tube fits in there, because it goes between the two clamps like this, once you have the thing keyed into this top plate and over the tube, you notice there's some little holes in that plate there, which the little fingers on the leg are supposed to dig into. I'd be concerned that if you came in really hot and the legs hit the ground, they would try and rotate and actually twist this rod. In fact, I have to admit, I built this twice, because the first time I thought, oh, I won't worry about the heat shrink, I'll just build it anyway. And the clamps wouldn't tighten fully on the tube. So when I did come in, bonk like that, it actually spun the rod around so that when I went to take off again, this thing had about 45 degrees on the front props, no degrees on the back, and it was, whoa, you just couldn't control the damn thing. So that's why I decided to rebuild it with the heat shrink as Ron had suggested, and now it flies really good. So yeah, these legs, I don't know, I'm not a fan of them being tied to the arms like that. I would rather see them over the carbon tube perhaps, you know, as you would expect, but then have these little teeth here, or these little prongs, engaged into the main frame here. Run this little frame member out a bit wider, a couple of holes, so that it was still sitting on the carbon rod, but it couldn't rotate because the top plate of the frame would stop it from doing that. That'd be great. I'd like to see that, because that would then give us a bit of space to protect our battery when we're landing on sharp surfaces. Yeah, I'm sure. One thing I should point out is that Ron has actually listened to some of the comments I've made already, and he's made some changes. So, and again, as I say, this is a great starting point for innovation, trying out your own things. And it's also brilliant because it shows you the difference between buying a $35 ZMR 250 frame and buying this frame. I've already pointed out some weak points on the ZMR 250 frame, the fact that the arms, you know, are not well designed, they have stress risers at the wrong place, and people are breaking the arms. And but the thing is, have ZMR, the people who make these quads, have they fixed it? No, they haven't. They just, you know, people are still buying it, so they still ship it with the crappy designed arms. When I pointed out to Ron that there were some issues here, which I'll point out to you in a moment with the setting up of your cameras, he immediately made a change. And he introduced an upgrade kit, which he said, if anybody's bought one of these and you want the upgrade kit, let me know and I'll send it to you for free. Well, that's customer service. That's why you pay a little bit more and you get something like this, because you know that if there's something that needs fixing, people put it right. And you end up with a frame, you don't have to replace it, because if there's an improvement, hey, you just buy the improvement bits and add to it, improve it, make it better. That's brilliant. To me, that's a thumbs up feature of some of these brand name mini quads. And certainly Ron has gone the extra mile, and he's really sort of committed to this product and prepared to continue its development. I like that, and I appreciate what he does there. So let's look at perhaps what it is that I don't like about things. You notice there's no cameras on this mini quad. There's no FPV camera, there's no Mobius. It does come with a Mobius mount, which I've lost. Oh my goodness, now here it is. There's the Mobius mount, right? We're used to these little plates. Look at the size of those bobbins. They're quite big, and they would go in here like so. So your Mobius camera would sit up here, and you think, yeah, that's all right, that's fine. I mean, no problems there. The soft rubber will certainly absorb any vibration. That's very good. But then you've got the question, well, where do I put my video camera, my live video camera? If you've got a board camera, they give you this carbon plate here. You see those most mini quads, a little carbon plate. You bolt your camera in there, the lens pokes through the hole. Where does it go? Well, on the Mamba, this Mamba as it was shipped to me, it goes in the front here and sits like that. So you see that? So your board camera sits behind this plate, looks out the front. But I don't know about you, you can probably spot the potential problems here. For a start, there's no support for this plate. I mean, this just sits out here in the breeze. You can see it's just at a right angle to the main plate. Look, I mean, look at that. And the only thing that is stopping that from breaking off are those three little tongues and the three little slots in the plate below. And that's all it does, it just sits in there. This is 1.5, 1.6 millimeter carbon fiber. So I'm picking that if you smack into something, an abutment or a tree or whatever, head on, your camera lens is going to take most of the impact. It's going to break those tabs off or split out the little grooves. It's going to push the board camera back against the sharp front frame member here. It's going to destroy your board camera, and it's ripped the front of your mini quad. So I don't think that's a really acceptable way to mount this board camera. Ron says he hasn't had a problem, but perhaps he flies a whole lot better than me and a lot of other people I know. So I think the solution is to take this piece of carbon fiber, and I think what you have to do is this. That's right, gone, get rid of it. You don't need it. It's, you know, board cameras are not the only way to put FPV on something. Get one of these. This is the Sony 600 TV Line Superhead 2 camera, like the board camera, but it's in a little metal case. So you can actually just bolt that little baby right there on that plate, like this. It won't stay there by itself because it's nose heavy, but bolt it on there. Now, if you look at that, ta-da! Now you've got your FPV camera up the front. Oh, this is a bit loose. So there you go. It's almost protected by the front member, but it will still hit the lens first if you bang into a tree. So it's not the ideal, perhaps. And if you do that, then your Mobius platform up here is almost high enough to avoid it. But I think if you did that, because the Mobius has a fairly wide angle lens, if you look at it from the side, try and hold all this in place. It's a bit bodgy here. I should have done this a bit better, but never mind. You're probably still going to get this camera into the field of view of your Mobius, which some people may not like. So you could put a bit of foam on top of the Mobius. It's all a bit bodge. I'd really rather see a better solution. What I suggested perhaps to Ron was that if he increased the gap between these frames, then you could actually slide your Mobius in here. And that would provide a degree of support for the Mobius, and then your FPV camera could just bolt on the top here, and it would be protected because it's well back from the front of that plate, and it wouldn't see the Mobius, and the Mobius wouldn't see this camera, so everyone would be happy and life would be fun again in the world of FPV. And Ron took that on board. What he's done is he's made a spacer kit up that actually makes this plate further away from the bottom plate, so you can slide your Mobius under the front here. That's brilliant. That's the kind of proactive customer service that I really admire in a product, and I certainly hope we see more products like that. So you have to give Quadrasteria a big thumbs up and credit for being proactive in that area. So yeah, great. Now at the back, as I say, there's room for a video transmitter in here, but because I haven't to date fitted a camera, there's no point in putting a video transmitter in there. But your video transmitter, most of them will fit in this little gap in the back. You can run your aerial up the top here with an elbow, or you can run it at the back, whatever you want to do. So that's really good. It's nicely protected away in there. Excuse me, why is my camera not focusing? Okay. That's great. That's excellent. Happy with that. So really it's just the FPV camera attachment up the front and the Mobius attachment that I'm not so fussed with. As far as props go, you know, look, you could actually run 7-inch props on this damn thing. There's so much clearance. And because the props actually sit above the plates, you don't have to worry about the props hitting the body. And in fact, you know, so much clearance there and so much clearance here that you could run an extra inch of prop if you wanted to. I don't know why you would. It's got certainly good performance with the 6-inch props, but if you felt like it, making a real hot rod with 7-inch props, you could go for it. You could do it. Brilliant. As I mentioned before, plenty of room. Got my full-size X8R receiver here. You could put your FPV camera there, your Mobius down there, your video transmitter at the back, and you've still got room to play with here. Brilliant. Love it. Excellent. What else have I noticed? Well, yeah, probably not a lot. It does come with a power distribution board in here, which has got two regulators on there. There's two regulators. There's actually variable voltage. You've got a little screwdriver, you can adjust the voltage. So you can, if you're running 4 cells, for instance, which you could do quite easily, you can run a 5-volt regulator for a 5-volt camera and a 12-volt regulator for a 12-volt video transmitter. I stuck this down with carpet tape. It's not stuck that well, actually. I should address that later. So yeah, there you go. I mean, there's not much to criticize really with this little product, except that camera stuff. I'm going to put some cameras on there. I'm going to make a few modifications of my own, sort that out. I'm sure Ron will follow up with any modifications he feels are important. But let's take a look at some of the flying that I did today. Fortunately, it was a bit windy, but you know, I didn't have FPV, and I didn't have I had Neil cameraman today, so it's Neil Cam, and you'll see me flying this line of sight out there and having some encounters with a foam hoop. And just give you a rough idea, following up on this, there will be a video in which I will give you some proper FPV flying, and we'll also start tilting these props and see if the potential of this design can really be realized by flying it with perhaps 10 degrees of forward tilt on the props. Just see what that does to the speed. And because we've got all this room here, I'm going to put the FrSky GPS on here and we'll measure the speed. It'll plug straight into the smart bus on the receiver, little GPS up the front here. I've got it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I'll put it on there and we'll actually measure the speeds and we'll measure the effects of tilting your props, because I think a lot of people probably want to know about that. In the meantime, if you've got questions, comments, whatever, then please leave them in the comments section on this video. I'll do my best to answer them, and I'm pretty sure Ron will be looking as well. So if you want to ask the guy who designs and builds these any questions, you can probably do it in that video as well, in the comment section as well, and he'll probably come back to you. So there you go. Thanks. Enjoy the few moments of video that are coming up of the Mini Mamba flying in my rather incapable hands. Bye for now. How we doing?
Yep, cool.
It's tough. It's like most mini quads, it's very tough. Just as well.